Right, my friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button over here on our end, and you know what that means. We've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we go ahead and get started. Got to make sure those tubes are connecting themselves after the weekend, and after a busy weekend at that. We have trial starting today, opening arguments, and it looks like we are connected. That's tremendous news, my friends. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Trump trial, day 5. Going down to New York, we got Alvin Bragg prosecuting Trump, along with a bunch of other prosecutors. One of those guys' names is Matthew Colangelo. From the Biden DOJ before that, from Tish's office before that, from Obama's office, came out and delivered opening arguments. And it was pretty spicy. There were some objections back and forth throughout. But it was a relatively short day, and we had Trump speaking before the activities got underway there in New York. So we're going to hear what he had to say. He spoke for about 3 minutes here and is explaining what we all know. These are Biden's trials. How do we know that? Well, Matthew Colangelo, this guy has been following Trump around ever since he left the Obama DOJ. We've gone through this slide before. We'll refresh our recollection on this before we hear who is doing the opening argument. So Obama DOJ, then over to Tish, then over to Biden's DOJ before he landed with Alvin Bragg, all prosecuting Trump. So he came out, he delivered the oral arguments, opening arguments, and inner city press was there reporting. And they were relatively short opening arguments. I think the government had 45 minutes or so. Trump and the defense had 25 minutes or so. And so it will fly by, no doubt about it. Now, we've also got, in our second segment, our first witness got called in. And it's a short day because apparently some juror had a previously scheduled hearing or a doctor's appointment. Some people were saying a dentist appointment. You know how those can be. So maybe it was scheduled later and they had to bump it up. So for whatever reason, we ended early. And we knew we were ending early already because of Passover and the holiday coming up and being celebrated now. So there was a short day, but we did have our first witness take the stand. You remember this guy, David Pecker. All right. A lot of people are having a lot of fun with the name. I know, I did it too. Okay. It's in the title. I couldn't help myself. I know. I kind of felt like, a little mad at myself, but I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. It's right there. What can you do? All right. So it's not just me. Everyone's talking about it. David Pecker took the stand today, and we're going to clarify who David Pecker is, and when we refer to him, what Pecker we're referring to. So we'll talk about that. All coming up. He took the stand. It was a very short day, and the government, the prosecutor, just started into him before the judge called it quits, and that was it. So Trump came out after the fact, and he spoke for quite a bit longer. We'll listen to a little bit of that and see what he said before we turn our attention to some filings, because the defense has now publicized some other documents, and so we'll read through those. Both of those came from Todd Blanche, also known as the Margin Madman, who just doesn't give a crap what Microsoft Word has to say about anything. And he submitted these documents, and one is saying that when Michael Cohen starts running his mouth in front of the jurors, we should be able to talk about his convictions and the truth about his convictions, because they're trying to fabricate his convictions as being something that was related to Trump, right? He took some campaign finance crimes, and they're trying to say that was Trump related. And so Trump's defense is trying to come out and say, that's not true at all. It's not related to Trump. This is a Cohen problem. Leave it in Cohen's world. Now, Michael Cohen also, this is a pretty wild post that he dropped today, April 22nd. He's like literally calling Trump names on X. He's like, your attacks on me stink. Hey, Von, dumps in pants. We're all hoping that you take the stand in your defense. We're watching this from Michael Cohen, and we're saying this is very curious. Trump is going to be held in having a contempt hearing on this. might be held in contempt tomorrow. So while Trump is being gagged and can't speak a thing about it, Michael Cohen is literally posting in it, calling him names and all sorts of stuff. And Trump is going to respond to him a little bit in this clip that we've got coming up. But it's very much a pins and needles situation. So we also have Trump in his defense. They submitted, the Margin Madman submitted another one, sending that one into the courts, saying that the Access Hollywood tape needs to be precluded. You know, Alvin Bragg is trying to smear Trump essentially on all of this and layer in every single case, every single problem. Every time Trump forgot to put the seat down, they put it on a list, you know, and they're like, you're a bad person. Look, women, he hates you because he's a bigot with the seat, toilet seat, bigot, you know, whatever. And they're now trying to say the Hollywood tape has nothing to do with any of this. Okay, weirdos. All of this is an attempt to conflate one thing with another. This is about Stormy Daniels. Is really the only charged offense is somewhat related to Stormy Daniels. It's really related to invoices, ledgers, and checks. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, at the end of that segment, we've got Alina, Habba in the house. And so make sure you're sticking around for Trump's attorney, who is not happy about what's happening there in New York. And so, as you can see, my friends, we got some good stuff to talk about today. It is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter show because they were light in the court proceedings, but we're going to be, of course, be filling in the gaps. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention also is this was breaking news, and this is very curious, but there's public transcripts that are going to be out now soon, right? This is something that they're telling us they're going to start publicizing. And they just dropped this today, and we've been very critical of the New York court system for burying this case. Of course, it's a national election. It's a prosecution of national importance. And so how about we get some cameras in there? That'd be nice, huh? And we're grateful for Inner City Press for being able to report, but we've also seen they've kicked other journos out of there, like our friend Good Logic when he was trying to get in there. So the whole thing's been kind of a sham. But now, since opening arguments are now here, apparently they're going to be publicizing a lot of this. And so we're going to see what the first document looks like. But essentially, the way this is going to work with their transcripts, and this is unusual. Okay, we've gotten transcripts before, and they're very expensive when we've gotten them from federal courts. For example, we did the Steve Bannon trial, and we did, did we get transcripts for the Sussman trial? Very expensive, okay? It costs a lot to come out of pocket for those things, and you guys have been obviously amazingly helpful on that. But here, right, this would be thousands of dollars to get these transcripts, maybe tens. And I think New York court cost per page is even higher than the federal court, so it'd be like insane. But they're going to come out now and release these transcripts. And so depending on what you guys want to do and what your feedback is, I think we might read the transcripts. Now, the problem is that the transcripts are going to come out a day later. So I think it's going to be a certified transcript of each day's trial proceeding will be posted online and will be publicly available for the end of the next business day. So it's like we'll get today's transcript hopefully by the end of business tomorrow. So while the excerpts are incredible, and of course we love those, I think there might be some value in having a little bit of a delay, but being able to see the original source verbatim, right? Because it'll be a little bit more work, a little bit more time to get through them all, but it will be a little bit more verbatim. So we'll be able to gauge this, right? And you guys, of course, let me know what you think about how we should approach this. But on the one hand, we get, if we go with the excerpt route, we have very, very timely analysis. And on the back end, we might get, some very, very detailed transcripts that would be worthwhile to go through. And I think it might be cool to go through all of them together. You know what I'm saying? Like every single day, every single transcript, that there's some value in that. So we'll talk about it, but that's an update. And so they're going to start dropping these things over at this website on New York, on the New York courts. And that I think is a good development. Next nice thing would be, some actual cameras in the courtroom. So just a little bit of a tangent. Just wanted to make you aware of that. We might be, in other words, doing the transcripts again tomorrow, just for posterity's sake. But that's what's happening there in New York. Now, this morning, we had a great members-only stream, and we love our members. We love our members. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting us and for joining us and for helping to build this amazing community that we have. It's just awesome. So we go live 6 days a week, including on Saturdays for our members in the morning. We talk about a bunch of other stuff that we can't squeeze in here, like how useless and rotten our Congress is, and why are they waving Ukraine flags on the halls of the House of Representatives, on the floor, not the halls, in the floor. So come and join us if you'd like to get your blood pressure up on a Monday morning, as we all did today. So watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's a great community. Thank you for joining us. Really means a lot. PDFs, email, newsletter, show merch store. We've got our show reports. Lots of good stuff. RobertGovea.com. Links in the description below. And we had an awesome Sovereignty Saturday on Saturday. We were talking about, we did a garden update. We did a gun range update. Some people said, I'm not actually John Wick yet. It's like, I identify as John Wick. Okay, so whatever. But the point is, we're talking about sovereignty and self-development. We did a great debrief on one of my most recent personal development seminars that I was at these past 2 days last week. It was a lot of fun. WatcherLodge.com. Sign up to catch the next one. And we'll see you over there. All right. Now, without any further ado, let's get right to it, my friends, because it's trial time. Donald Trump and his defense were there on this historic day where the Democrats prosecuted a president for the first time in American history. And of course, there were opening arguments that took place. And the person who led the oral arguments, opening arguments, for the government is none other than Matthew Colangelo. We know all about this guy because we've talked about him previously here as we were doing our trial prep. Matthew Colangelo, this fella you see here, first came onto the scene back during the Obama administration, was there at the DOJ under Eric Holder and others. And then when Trump came on, guess what? They weren't in charge of the DOJ anymore. Donald Trump was. So what happened? He bounced over, joined Tish James. Name is all over a bunch of filings against the Trump organization and so on, was the mastermind behind that onslaught with which Tish, who really didn't do much of anything in that trial other than take her shoes off in the courtroom. Sick. And Engeron was like sniffing it up or something. Didn't even care. So that was happening there. As soon as that was underway, Matthew Colangelo went over to Joe Biden's team. Some people say maybe he's the brains behind the classified docs case, the J6 case, hands it all off to Jack Smith. Once Jack Smith has that done and running, he goes over to Alvin Bragg's office, which is where he is now. And the Alvin Bragg prosecution was dead on arrival. Cyrus Vance declined it. Alvin Bragg declined it. The Federal District of New York, Southern District there, also declined it. Matthew Colangelo came over from the DOJ. Suddenly, this case is back out of nowhere. And so he was there delivering the opening arguments for the government. Why not? He knows this case inside and out since he's been targeting Trump and prosecuting him every single moment he's awake. And this is not justice, by the way, right? This is somebody who is forum shopping, or let's say career shopping, prosecutor's office shopping, just to go take out the former president. So this is what Trump said before the day got underway. Of course, as soon as he's done speaking, we're going to jump in and see what Inner City Press has to say about this. All his links are in our description wherever you're watching this, at Inner City Press on X and on Substack. So check this out from Trump. He came out in New York and he spoke for about 3 minutes explaining what he thinks about this sham facade of a prosecution that is currently underway in New York.
Where's Melania, Mr. Trump? Donald, where's Melania?
Mind your business, punk.
Thank you very much. I just want to say before we begin, these are all Biden trials. This
True.
is done as election interference. Everybody knows it. I'm here instead of being able to be in Pennsylvania and Georgia and lots of other places campaigning. And it's very unfair. Fortunately, the poll numbers are very good. They've been going up because people understand what's going on. This is a witch hunt, and it's a shame. And it comes out of Washington. It's in coordination with Washington, everything, including the DA's office. It's in coordination with Washington. I just want people to understand that this is done for purposes of hurting the opponent of the worst president in the history of our country. Second of all, we have another trial going on right now. That's Letitia James. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump. I'm going to get Trump. And it has to do with a bond of $175 million. First of all, she doesn't want me to participate with financial companies in New York. So we have a company, I guess, based in California. It's a bonding company. And I put up $175 million in cash, but she says the bonding company's not good. She doesn't like the bonding company.
She'd rather take over Trump Tower.
The collateral is good. And I put up $175 million in cash, and she's questioning the bonding company. Well, when you put up cash, and the number is 175, which is what we're supposed to be putting up, but I give it in cash, she shouldn't be complaining about the bonding company. The bonding company would be good for it because I put up the money. And I have plenty of money to put up, but nobody is going to be putting up with this. Nobody is going to be listening or coming to New York anymore. Businesses are going to be fleeing because people are treated so badly.
Because Tish is eating all the buildings.
Unfriendly place to do business, and that's why businesses
everywhere she goes with their shoes off.
As migrants come in and take over our parks and our schools and everything else. So on the Letitia James case, she's the worst attorney general in the country, by the way. On Letitia, and she keeps a lot of business out of New York, and businesses that are here are leaving. And that means jobs and a lot of revenue. Somebody's going to step in. The governor or somebody has to step in and do something because your businesses are fleeing.
They're all happy about it.
Letitia James, the money was put up. It's $175 million. And I don't think she's complaining about me for the first time ever. She's complaining about the company. But why would she be doing that when I put up the money? So I just want you to know that that's taking place in front of an extremely crazy judge who's the most overturned judge in New York State. He was overturned 4 or 5 times on that case alone. That's, you know who it is. I don't have to mention names. I want to be nice. I want to be very nice.
Engeron, Areola the Nip.
A thing like that one. And a thing like what's going on right here should never be happening. It's a very, very sad day in America. I can tell you that.
We got it, Mr. President. We got it for you, man. All right. Very rude reporters back there. All right. So you see the scene. Always like to set the stage. That was Todd Blanche standing right next to him, looking sharp. Red tie, blue tie duo right there. Let's go get them, boys. So we go into court. We've got a reminder on who Matthew Colangelo is, and he's going to be the person who's doing oral arguments during day 5 of the trial today. And as a reminder, our friend Matthew Russell Lee is at Inner City Press on X. He's got books on X. He's outstanding. And make sure you go and give him a follow on our timeline. Now, you saw Trump just came out. He had something to say to the press. It's rigged. Letitia James is terrible. This whole city's a disaster. Goes into court, now seated at the defense table. There's a hustle, a bustle afoot. Media's taking their photographs. Suddenly, it's time to go. Door bursts open. All rise. Oh, gosh, it's judge again. We stand up. Please be seated. Court clerk now announces the case. This is the time set for the people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump, indictment number whatever. Judge says, good morning, everybody. Okay, it is now time for openings. How long are the openings going to be, Mr. Government? Prosecutor on the docket today for the government is Steinglass. He says, 40 minutes, Your Honor. Todd Blanche, he stands up. He goes, 40 minutes? We need 25. Judge says, good, because we will break early because there's something going on. And there's, I think, a juror who has a dentist appointment is what the news says, filling in the gaps here. Mercan, the judge, says, also, before we begin, we've got a slight problem here with one juror. Juror 9 has told us that they're a little bit concerned about the media, for whatever that means, and says there's a lot of attention here. So I suggest that we speak with this juror in my chambers, and I'm sorry, I mean in my robing room, and I suggest that not all you come in here, all right, looking at Trump. Don't you even think about coming back into my robing room lest you see what I do back there. So then Trump just is seated there at the defense table, and he's seated alone. And then we see other attorneys get up and get out of there. So Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, Susan Nicholas, they all pile into the judge's robing room. So does the prosecutor's team, and Juror 9 goes back in there. There's a hustle and bustle afoot. Donald Trump, the president, catches a little bit of shut-eye, much needed. And they're back. Judge Mercan comes back out. He's back on the bench. He says, okay, we got this cleared up. All right, juror 9 is going to remain with us. We've got that settled. Gave them a nice talking to. You're strong enough and you can do this. Get back out there. All right. Now, here the judge says, I want to address some other preliminary matters before we get into the openings. Says, first of all, on the Access Hollywood transcript, he says, I've reviewed it and I see no reason it should not be admitted into evidence. Now, we're going to come back on that because the defense is making the record on this, saying that we asked for your reconsideration. And so, of course, he has denied that. But we'll read the filing in another segment. Now, he says on the Sandoval hearing, and this is what they call the prior bad acts that they'll try to use to impeach the former President Trump if he decides he is going to testify. And if he does, they'll say, oh, well, that's interesting. You have a character for dishonesty. Your character for truthfulness is lacking. How do we know? Well, judges in this case said this about you. And in this case, they said this was basically fraudulent. And in this case, they said you were lying here, or you did this, or you should be gagged over here, right? A whole litany of all the bad things. And you didn't put the toilet seat down in this one either. And what's so convenient about this is Matthew Colangelo was the person who orchestrated all of these different crimes, essentially, or prosecutions in one way or the other. And he is the guy who didn't put the seat down, but he's blaming it on Trump, right? He's saying, oh, hey, let's manufacture Trump not putting the seat down type of a situation. And then we'll blame him for not putting the seat down. Like, okay. And he's following him around to every single room. Again, lifting it up, lifting it up, lifting it up. You're like, hey, man, there's no crimes going on here. Stop it. So they go through that big laundry list of all of the smears, and the judge says, okay, look, I've read it. Okay, I've read on the Sandoval hearing. I'm going to read my ruling. Here's what can come in, and here's what is not allowed in. So he says the court will allow into evidence the case of Tish, People by James versus Trump. So Tish's case, which was governed by Angeron Areola, a.k.a. the Nip, right, with his Greenfield, who is on the same level with him for whatever reason that was all about. And they moved the cameras away from them. Like, don't show them anything. Whatever that was about. Some of the most rigged lawyering and legalese and judging from any case we've ever seen ever, and resulting in $500 million judgment against Trump that's now been cut back down to 175 on appeal. That whole case can come in. And what they can talk about is Trump was fined for posts about Greenfield, the judge's Greenfield, his GF, who was sitting right next to him. Very strange. You don't have on equal footing, okay, both of them. And she is a Democrat donor who has run for office, like loves Democrats, pictures with Chuck Schumer. What the heck's going on here? So that is now allowed. They can say, see, once one domino falls, they use them all. Trump got in trouble by that rigged court and that rigged judge, which is right around the corner, right? It's also in New York. So they can parlay that into this case. Now, as to E. Jean Carroll, the court will allow the defamation finding. So again, the Bergdorf, grab him by the purse situation by some demented woman, in my opinion, who doesn't, know reality from reality. She lives in a blue forest because she paints the trees blue and has, mice. It's a strange person. So that they're going to allow some conversation about that related to the defamation finding. And he says also from Tish versus Trump, we're also going to allow that Trump consented to the dissolution of the Trump Foundation and as to why. So you can talk about all these things. Now, none of these things are related to this case. This case is a spreadsheet violation. This was an invoice in a ledger and a check times however many to equal 34. And there was 1 month that counted for 2. So you get the point. Do the math. But all of that is actually charged in the indictment. Tish, Trump org, E. Jean Carroll, it's not in the indictment at all. So he says this is a Sandoval compromise. So I'm going to allow some stuff in, but not a lot of stuff in. So the court cautions Trump, this is a shield and not a sword. So don't use this offensively. So the clerks are all, okay, just kind of hanging out. Now it's time to bring in the jury because all that has been settled. So go back to their respective seats. Pre-motions have been resolved. Jury comes in. All rise. We're all standing for the jury. And this time we care because we like the jury. We like them a lot. Hey, everybody, good to see you. Your energy's good. You're kind of bouncing around. Great to see everybody. Hey, good to see you. Thank you, sir. Yeah, come on in. Great to see you. Eye contact with all of them. Boom. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Smile with your eyes at all the jurors. We love you. Like us back, please. When the judge comes in, you're like, pfft. I mean, this judge. Most judges we stand up for and respect, but this court's a whole different story. Point is, we're now seated. The judge addresses the jurors. Mercan presiding says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, now I have legal instructions that I need to review with you first before we get into today's business. The law requires the prosecutor to make an opening statement, just to be clear about this, but not the defendant. And as we go through these proceedings, we will mark certain objects as exhibits. And the defendant may, but is not required to present any evidence at all. In fact, the defendant is presumed to be innocent. Yeah, right. Not in this jurisdiction. The people must prove each element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And remember, before you were seated here today, ladies and gentlemen, you promised to be a fair juror. And as I explained during jury selection, we are often sufferers from preconceptions and from stereotypes and from implicit biases. And I caution you today, ladies and gentlemen, to guard against those. Now, under our law in New York, juror number 1, looking at you, sir, will be the foreperson of this jury. And in this case, we have 6 alternate jurors. Now, as we go through this trial, ladies and gentlemen, do not speak about the case by any means at all. Do not read about the case, including on the internet. Now, we're going to end early today at 2 p.m. And in fact, we'll end at 12:30, now that I think about it. And tomorrow, when you come back, we're going to get started at 11 a.m. We're going to have the contempt hearing before that, as we know. Any questions? Jurors all nodding their head. Okay, no, this is fine. Let's go. So, with all that said, judge says, Mr. Government, so Matthew Colangelo, the Biden prosecutor who's been following Trump around forever, gets to make a big debut in the first criminal case that he has orchestrated against the president of America and current presidential contender. Let's not forget who this is. He starts in front of the jury. Colangelo says, ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a criminal conspiracy. Donald Trump corrupted the 2016 election. And the scheme began when Trump, the defendant, met with David Pecker, with Michael Cohen there. And they conspired to conceal negative information about Mr. Trump. Now, I want to make a point that the defense is obviously going to be making, but this was not charged. There is no conspiracy charge in this crime, in this case at all, not one. So this is unethical and dishonest. It's not even accurate. If there was a criminal conspiracy, why didn't you charge it? You didn't. It's 34 counts of falsifying a business record. That's the crime. And really not even a crime. We don't even know what it's based on. Maybe he'll tell us. But this is dishonest. It's unethical. It may be getting objected to, or they'll address it on their response. But there is no criminal conspiracy here. And they're trying to make this matter because no one cares about paying off some porn star named Stormy, okay, from 2016. Whether anything happened or not, right? Billionaires get claims against them all the time. They just pay to make stuff go away. Get out of here. So there is now a corruption of the election facet to this, which again is not charged. So I'll try to behave myself as this continues now. The scheme began. Trump met with David Pecker and Michael Cohen was there, and they conspired, not charged, to conceal negative information about Mr. Trump. Now, Michael Cohen paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, and he did it to silence her, which she agreed to and signed a bunch of documents, evidently. Now, Trump, the defendant, claimed the payments to Michael Cohen were for legal services because that's what was on the check. But that was a lie. No, instead, the defendant falsified 34 business records. Okay, that's the actual crime that they allege happened. And he was indicted for that. Yeah. So why'd you say criminal conspiracy? Because there's no charge for that. But he falsified invoices. He falsified voucher entries and payment checks with check stubs, all the ones we've seen. Michael Cohen sends Trump an invoice. Okay, Trump doesn't do anything. He's sitting there, making America great again. Boom. He gets an invoice, felony. Every time Cohen sends him an invoice, felony. Because apparently Trump was a conspirator who created this whole conspiracy, but there's no conspiracy charge. Prosecutor Matthew Colangelo continues. Biden's prosecutor, previously Tish's prosecutor, previously Obama's prosecutor, says, let's go back in time. Let's go back to almost 10 years ago, August 2015. And they haven't charged this case since. There was a meeting with David Pecker of AMI, American Media Institute, some organization that owns the National Enquirer, which was a big tabloid magazine. They say Pecker had a say over what was being published. And this person called Dylan Howard was also involved, ladies and gentlemen, painting this story of these two guys all the way August 2015. You remember what it was like back then. Now, these people, Colangelo says, Pecker and Howard, they created this conspiracy and they attacked a candidate named Ted Cruz, including accusing his family and being involved in the assassination of JFK. Well, there's been no evidence that he's not the Zodiac killer or was on the grassy knoll. We don't know. There's open questions about this. You know, Ted Cruz has a podcast, by the way. They attacked Ben Carson for alleged medical malpractice. Sounds like regular old campaigning. And the assassination of JFK stuff was like internet memes. Okay, it was just hilarious. So Pecker was trying to bury the negative information about the defendant. It was all a joke. It was all a joke. Okay. We don't really think, maybe he is the Zodiac killer. I don't know. It could be true. So the prosecutor says they carried out 3 catch and kills, standard media stuff. A doorman named Dino Sajudin was trying to sell information about an alleged out-of-wedlock kid that Trump had. And so they paid Sajudin $30,000 to be quiet about it. And he was going to go to the National Enquirer. Hey, I've got this great story about. So Trump just pays to make it go away. Okay, it's $30,000 at least to pay for it in PR. So the prosecutor continues. He's telling the jury about this riveting case. And Cohen, he says, Michael Cohen got involved. And when this contract was being meted through so that they could do this capture and kill thing for this $30,000 illegitimate child thing, they said that Cohen got involved to add in a $1 million damages clause. So if this guy violates his confidentiality agreement, boom, he gets hit. He's got to pay $1 million damages. And so I don't really know what that had to do with anything in this case. This, whole story about that Sajudin, it's the first time we're hearing about that one here. Now then he goes into this other one. Karen McDougal, again, another person who was not charged in this indictment. Trump was not charged for any sort of, was he charged for $30,000 transactions? No, it's not in the indictment, not in the 4 corners of any document. So then they go into another one. And then there was another one, Karen McDougal. She was a former Playboy playmate. December Playmate of the Month. I'm pretty sure of the year, maybe. I don't know. Keith Davidson represented her, shopping her story of her affairs with Trump. She had ended an affair with Trump nearly a year earlier. Now, Howard then told Cohen that he thought the allegations were true, and they all discussed it. They said, man, her story sounds good. It seems like it matches up. We're not going to be able to do anything about this. So David Pecker from the National Enquirer, he agreed that AMI would pay $150,000 for the story. And that's how they do this catch and kill, says the prosecutor. They're covering it up. And in this deal, AMI added other terms. They said Miss McDougal would also appear on the cover. Huh? So they're going to put her on the cover. She's like, oh, perfect. I want to be famous. That's great. But it was hush money, he says. So even though she got, even though like we put her on the cover, she brings this claim. She's like, I'm going to say this about you unless you give me some money and put me on the cover. They're like, fine. All right. You're pretty good looking. So fine. We'll put you on the cover. What do you want? 150,000. Okay, fine. Go away. So they put her on the cover. And now she's like, I was taken advantage of. This was hush money, they say. This was hush money. Prosecutor says, are you offended, jurors? So you're going to hear David Pecker testify about his conversations with Trump about McDougal. He's going to come in and explain to you how this whole scam worked, where they catched and killed. But Trump didn't pay, though, and Pecker was frustrated. Now, Cohen recorded a conversation with Trump, and you're going to hear it here. Michael Cohen spoke with Alan Weisselberg, Trump's CFO former, who's now been convicted of perjury thanks to Tish. And so he got targeted because Michael Cohen, of course, is a perjurer. And then they've got a porn star, Stormy Daniels, which is a little rough for them, too. And then they needed to start to cut the legs out from the other side. So they went after Weisselberg. So Matthew Colangelo, Biden's prosecutor, he continues. He says, you will hear Trump say in his own voice that they should pay in cash. Instead, they paid as so-called advisory services. And Pecker consulted with AMI's general counsel, talked to lawyers, and then said AMI would eat the cost. And apparently Trump had sort of a running fee to them, right? He was just kind of filling in their coffers. Now, a month before the election, says the prosecutor Colangelo, the Washington Post came out and published a video that they turned this campaign upside down. You may remember it. It was a hot mic. And it was released from Access Hollywood. Dun, dun, dun. Which again, did Trump grab Stormy by the purse and talk about that on Access Hollywood? I don't think that's what that was tape was about. I think it was not related to her at all. Now, the Washington Post reporter emailed Hope Hicks, which was someone who worked for Trump, with a transcript of Donald Trump bragging about his assaults. All right, we'll leave that. I don't think Trump was saying he was assaulting them. Okay, I mean, you could split that. I don't think he was saying I was going and committing assaults. He was just kind of, saying in certain environments, it was locker room talk. Not to rehash all that, but you can see why they want to bring this back in, right? You see what he's doing to the jury. He's like, Trump was bragging about sexual assaults. It's like, come on, man. That's not what he was doing at all. He's not like I went around was like, Weinsteining a bunch of women. Okay. It was not at all what he said, but he's trying to smear him. That has nothing to do with Stormy Daniels at all, which is the only thing that is the discussion of these charges, these 34 counts of falsifying a business record. So prosecutor continues. He says, and Trump said, grab him by the purse. And he says it out loud, and he probably felt really awkward about it. And he's like, or maybe he really loved it. I don't know. You can do anything, he says. You can do anything you want when you're a celebrity. Now, allies withdrew their endorsements. They're like, oh my gosh. The Republican National Committee considered replacing him a month before Election Day. Remember how ridiculous our country was? At the defense table, Trump whispers to his lawyer, Blanche. He's like, it was a pretty funny tape, wasn't it? Whatever. I don't know what he said. But, it's just like, okay, so they're talking. So prosecutor continues and says, one day after the Access Hollywood tape was published, AMI told Michael Cohen that Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Keith Davidson, had another story about infidelity with a Stormy, right? A total degenerate. Now, at Trump's direction, Cohen arranged to buy the story. So now they're like, okay, so this woman now comes out of the woodwork. You understand what happened here? Access Hollywood drops their tape. Stormy comes out, says, oh, perfect. We have a wounded animal. The media is going to go blast this dude. I've got a story. Something sounds plausible. Maybe they met one time somewhere or something, cross paths, whatever. Oh, we were here at this location. She can craft a story. Says, I'm going to go get paid for this. Karen McDougal's president. She got $150. So she's talking about this. Hey, maybe I'll go get my piece too. So at Trump's direction, Cohen arranged to buy the story, is what the government alleges. Now, Trump told Cohen to delay all this until after the election, they say. And Cohen tried to, but Stormy Daniels and her lawyer saw through it. So it was arranged that Cohen would pay $130,000 through a shell company. And they created this. It was called Essential Consultants. And so Cohen took out a home equity loan. He paid Stormy Daniels. Cohen gave false information to the bank, and he did that at Trump's direction. And he did that for his benefit to influence the election. And so this was a conspiracy. Not charged. No one charged that. So why are you even talking about it? Dishonest. Now, prosecutor continues, Colangelo. He says, it was elections fraud, pure and simple. How come he didn't get charged for that? Strange behavior. Trump was concerned, they say. On election night, Keith Davidson texted the National Enquirer, Dylan Howard, and asked, what have we done? We got Trump elected. What have we done? And so Trump invited Pecker to the White House to say thank you to him for getting him elected. And in January of 2017, before Trump moved to D.C. into the White House, Michael Cohen met with Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of Trump Org. Now, they couldn't admit that this was a payoff to a Stormy. And so Weisselberg asked for a bank statement. And so they doubled it. And they did that so Cohen could pay taxes on this expense. And they added another $60,000 as a year-end bonus to him, too. And Weisselberg wrote it all down. And Trump approved it. And you're going to see that Trump was frugal, but not in this case. This might be the only time that he spent money. And so they purported to pay under a retainer agreement that didn't even exist. In fact, in February 2017, says Colangelo, Michael Cohen went down to D.C. and they confirmed the plan. And then Cohen sent a fake invoice to Trump. And then he got a check. And he did that 11 times. And they entered all of this into the Trump Organization's general ledger. And they did that falsely. And now the first payments were from Donald Trump and from his revocable trust, but then from Trump himself. And every time he did this, there were false business record each time. You're going to hear a lot about Michael Cohen as we go through this, and he's going to be telling you a lot of things. Now, when it all became public, Michael Cohen lied. And this is drawing the sting, right? They're going to call Michael Cohen a liar, so we better call him a liar first. He lied. Now, he has a criminal record. We're telling you this, so you're not surprised, because we don't want you to be surprised when they tell you. And so Cohen will testify that he pled guilty and he went to jail. And for the Karen McDougal payoff and for Stormy Daniels. He also went to jail for tax fraud and for lying to a bank and to Congress. Now, Cohen's testimony, though, is not standing on its own. Cohen is backed up by other witnesses. David Pecker is going to be here to confirm this, and Keith Davidson will as well. And we have records, and we're going to show them to you, ladies and gentlemen. And sometimes we're going to spend a lot of time on these records, sometimes at length. Because this is about a criminal conspiracy and a cover-up. And we are confident that when we are done here presenting this evidence, you will have no reasonable doubt about what happened in this case. And so I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, ignore the irrelevant sideshows that come up in this trial. They're trying to distract you. My colleague Joshua Steinglass will explain Donald Trump is guilty. Judge says, wow, thank you for that. That was great. Bravo. Whew. Okay, let me collect my thoughts. He says, now, how about your turn, defense? So the defense stands up. Todd Blanche, representing Donald Trump, the margin madman. Fighting for the president, he says, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is innocent. President Trump did not commit any crimes. Not one. Now, you've seen President Trump for years. You're from New York. He's from New York, and we know him. He's larger than life. But what he's doing here is doing what any of us would do in a situation like this here today. He is defending himself. Now, today we call him President Trump because he's earned that. He was the president, elected by the people of America. And he's running for president again now. In fact, he's the nominee of the Republican Party. And now, while all this is going on, Alvin Bragg and the Democrats, my words, are prosecuting this case against a man who did nothing wrong. In fact, the evidence in this trial is from years ago. In fact, it's before COVID. You remember that? Way before COVID. Witnesses that you're going to hear from are going to talk about 2015. It's 2024. The story you just heard from Matthew is not true. And at the end of this trial, there will be plenty of reasonable doubt. And as we go through this, ladies and gentlemen, you will learn that President Trump is in fact very successful. He's been very successful in a number of different projects and buildings and different endeavors, many of which you see around us here today. But after President Trump took office, Michael Cohen became his personal attorney. And for his services, he billed him a retainer, like many lawyers do. It's called a flat fee. And you bill it every month and work against the fee. And so Michael Cohen billed Trump $35,000 a month for those services. Right about what Nathan Wade was getting paid. Now, the invoice was processed and paid. Not a big deal. 9 of the checks made their way down to the White House. He's the only signatory on his account. Now, you're also going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, that Miss Daniels, Stormy, did in fact, she did sign a non-disclosure agreement. There was a deal. There was a contract. But President Trump did not pay Michael Cohen $130,000. No, that number you're going to hear a lot of is not accurate. No, he paid him $420,000. Would a frugal businessman do that? Would he just decide to more than double all of the money? That was not a payback, he says. This was normal legal retainer expenses. Now, Michael Cohen did work for the president. He did legal work. He was a lawyer. And he also did work for Melania, our beautiful first lady. Says there's a lot that goes into that. Now, he writes invoices and sends those invoices. And when those invoices go to the recipient, they use what's called a ledger. And many of you are familiar with this, ladies and gentlemen. We know what a ledger is. It's just like a checkbook. And you're going to hear it was done by Debs Tarasoff. She managed the checkbook. She handled the ledger. Now, she is not going to say that she had any conversation with President Trump about this. She's not saying that Trump gave her permission to falsify the records or anything like that. This was regular business. An invoice came, she marked it in the ledger, the organization paid the legal bill. Now, some of you heard this last week during jury selection. You may remember this concept came up when we were asking you questions about things like accomplice liability. Now, this is an attempt by the government to get around what they need to prove. And so don't fall for it. They are going to know and show something to prove their case and to excuse their failure to prove that Trump had no knowledge or no intent behind any of this. In fact, Michael Cohen is the person with knowledge and intent. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a lot of conversation about this, but let me just fast forward through it. And here is a spoiler alert for you. We live in America. There's nothing wrong with trying to influence an election. It's called democracy. Every time you run a campaign ad, you're influencing an election, aren't you? And so there's nothing illegal about entering into non-disclosure agreements. It happens all the time. Now, what Miss Daniels did, by contrast, was almost extortion. She came to the Trump campaign right after another smear from Access Hollywood dropped, and she demanded that she get paid like McDougal did. Because they were talking. And she wanted her piece of the pie, and she knew what better moment to get it than now. Now, you're going to hear that this agreement was negotiated by lawyers. Objection, says the Bragg team. Maybe it was Colangelo. Judge says, please approach. Lawyers go up to the judge's bench. Sidebar up front. They're whispering to each other. Trump seated alone at the defense table. Time fast forwards, and we're back. The judge says, government, your objection is sustained. So your last comment is stricken. So it was negotiated by lawyers. Oh, so like you're impeding, you're commenting on her right to counsel. So they don't want you to hear that Stormy Daniels had this whole thing orchestrated by a legal team. She's just this innocent victim who got attacked by Trump's mega power and it's hush money, right? No. So judge says, no, that objection is sustained. You don't get to talk about her lawyers. And so the last comment is stricken. So Todd Blanche comes back. He says, okay, fine. Now, there's nothing illegal about a non-disclosure agreement, period. Okay? Happens all the time. And you're going to hear us cross-examining Michael Cohen when he comes back up and takes a stand. And you're going to learn that after the election, Michael Cohen wanted a job in the administration. But guess what? He didn't get one. Now, he defended President Trump on TV, but he was also a criminal. Okay, he cheated on his taxes and other things. And suddenly he got caught. In 2018, he got caught. He's a felon. And he's here going to be testifying. Michael Cohen, says Trump's defense, he goes on podcasts and he says that he'd like to see President Trump go to prison. In fact, in this case, he's talking about it recently. Just last night, 12 hours ago, Mr. Cohen, the perjurer, said on a public forum that he wanted to see Trump in an orange jumpsuit. He said that last night. And Cohen walked into a courtroom very near here and he lied. Objection! Sustained, says the judge. Come up here. They go up to the judge's bench and we're back. He says, that objection is sustained, ladies and gentlemen. You'll disregard that question. Todd Blanche continues for Trump. Says, you're going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Cohen raised his right hand and then lied. And then admitted that. He pled guilty to lying under oath. Do you know why that is? Because Michael Cohen is obsessed with President Trump. Like level 5, obsessed. His entire livelihood relies on President Trump being convicted for this case. Every waking moment, he is thinking about what he can do to take him out. And that is not someone who is without bias or prejudice. And you should weigh that against their credibility. Now, the same goes for Stormy Daniels, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump met her in 2006. He met a lot of people. He was running a very popular TV show back then. You may remember it. It's called The Apprentice. And so, yeah, he spoke to her about that, as he speaks to a lot of people about this. But guess what? She tried to make money off these communications. She tried to turn them into something that they're not. And in fact, she's made hundreds of thousands of dollars since. She was paid for a documentary that they just released on Peacock. Courts have sided with President Trump against her defamatory lies. And in fact, Stormy owes Donald Trump $600,000, ladies and gentlemen. And so when she takes the stand, she's going to be a little bit upset with him. She owes him over $500,000. So that should be weighed against her credibility. She's clearly biased. She's got a vendetta just like Cohen did. But Stormy, the truth is, she knows nothing about the charges here. She wasn't involved in the invoice from Cohen or the ledger or the check. So if that's what we're talking about, she should not even be here. They say this was supposed to be a, quote, catch and kill conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, a catch and kill conspiracy. Okay, well, there's no conspiracy charge here. Where is it? We haven't seen it. There isn't one. That's because there is nothing illegal about what happened here. Nothing. AMI is a company. They own the National Enquirer. Mr. Pecker and President Trump, they're allowed to do this. You may not be familiar with it, but it happens all the time with famous people. We live in New York. We are New Yorkers. That's why we're here, to be New Yorkers. And you said, ladies and gentlemen, that when you were going to be honored and accepting of this sacred duty, that you would be able to put aside your views of President Trump. And we trust you to do that. We do. So we ask you here today to base your decision on the evidence that's going to come before you. And there will be a swift, not guilty verdict in this court. Thank you. Judge says, yeah, whatever. Blanche, please approach. Come up here. So the judge says, okay, we're going to take a very short 10-minute recess, and we're going to step out, and we'll be back at noon. And so we're going to pause right there and remind you to go check out Inner City Press. He, of course, is doing an awesome job reporting on this at Inner City Press on X and on Substack. A bunch of his links are down in the description below, including his Substack. He also publishes books on Amazon, and he's doing an awesome job reporting on this. We wouldn't be able to get these details were it not for him. So be sure you check that out. Also, we've got some great links down in the description below ourselves. Don't forget to go to watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to become a membo and get some extra members-only streams. We go live in the mornings, 6 days a week, including on Saturdays. And so we'd love to have you join us. Great way to support our show, meet the best community on the entire internet, and we'll look forward to seeing you inside there and, of course, here when you subscribe and like this video. We're grateful for it. All right, now, they're on break. They're back from lunch, and we come back for lunch. Now, let's talk about this guy who is back from lunch. And so we want to put a name to a face, starting with this guy. Alvin Bragg calls David Pecker to the stand, the very first witness in the prosecution against President Trump. And we remember who this guy is from our slides. David Pecker was the CEO of AMI until 2020. He allegedly was part of this catch and kill program. Michael Cohen worked with him. He was sued by Karen McDougal, and he was ultimately subpoenaed by the feds at one point, granted immunity, and then nothing came of that investigation. You see what the Enquirer looks like. You may have seen these magazines at the grocery store on the shelf somewhere and wondered where they came from. Well, AMI was the big company, and then David Pecker was behind it. So David Pecker is going to be the first person in the trial who is going to be testifying against the former president. And as usual, we're going over to Inner City Press for the reporting at Inner City Press. His links are down in the description below. And we're back from lunch. Very first witness ever. Judge Mercan tells the people, okay, Bragg, call your first witness. They say the people call David Pecker. And a lot of people are having fun with this David Pecker thing. I was even listening to a short clip from Jake Tapper, and he was saying it very forcefully when he was saying, tell me about how David Pecker was. And so because the name is a little bit unusual here, because this is a family show, this is of course a PG show, we want to be very careful when we use this term. We're not just throwing the Pecker word around all over the place, lest it end up somewhere we don't want it. We don't want Peckers poking in places we don't want them to. So we got to be clear about what it is we're talking about specifically. And so because this is the government's case, you can see this is the prosecutor's case here. and Bragg is the prosecutor, and it's Bragg's first witness, and Bragg's first witness is David Pecker. We're just going to call this, just to simplify everything, Bragg's Pecker, just so we all know what we're talking about. We don't want random Pecker talk, so we'll just be simple. Bragg's Pecker, I think, is very simple. We can all be clear what we're talking about. Okay. So the government comes out and say, the people call David Pecker. He comes up. Raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You're going to tell the truth, so help you God? Bragg's Pecker says, yes, I do. Now, I have nothing against David Pecker. He's probably a very nice guy. You know, probably a reasonable guy just running a business. I got nothing against him. He's under subpoena, by the way, by Bragg. That's the other reason why it's Bragg's Pecker, because he's under subpoena. Bragg forced him to be there. So you promise to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth? I do. Mr. Pecker, where are you from, sir? Yes, I promise to tell the truth. And I flew in here today from Fairfield County, Connecticut. Government starts with this one. Says, hey, okay, well, all right, thank you for being here, Mr. Pecker. Sorry to start with this question, but how old are you, sir? Oh, no problem, I'm 72. And what do you do, sir? Now, I just do consulting, including I do some work for American media. And the judge says, hey, hold on a minute for a second. Jurors, you guys want some writing materials to write this stuff down? He says, please keep your hand up if you want something to write with. He's like, take this down. It's going to be good. Okay, this is the good stuff. So write this down. Now, we see at the defense table, there's been some musical chairs happening. Todd Blanche and Emil Bove have switched seats. Someone's getting closer to the jurors. Now, Trump is whispering to each of them in turn, telling him what he knows about Pecker. Government continues, okay, Mr. Pecker, what does AMI do here? Well, he says, well, it's pretty simple. You know, they publish celebrity magazines. You've seen a lot of these. Things like the National Enquirer, the Globe, In Touch, Star, Flex. When I was there, I was the chairman and the CEO. I owned about 10% of the organization. Okay. And when you were there, did you have final say on what would be published and what would not be published? He says, we used checkbook journalism. It's how we did it. We paid for stories. And so I set a $10,000 limit. So we just go pay for it. If it was more than $10,000, then yeah, it'd have to be vetted by me. So there was a threshold. And when you ran this organization, did you have meetings? Yeah. What were these editor meetings? Remember those? Yeah. Can you tell me about them? Sure. And well, what we would do there is I would consider the covers on who goes on the cover of the magazine because, you know, they were the most important thing. Like, what is the photo on it? It's what everybody sees, and they have to buy the magazine. So it was important. So that's what I did. Now, in the time frame of your role there, what were the last 4 digits of your cell phone, sir? He says, 7501. He says, is it 01 or is it 91? Says the prosecutor. He says, it's 91. Yeah, sorry about that. And I had 5955 was my other number. And my New York office was 4899. And I had a Florida office, which was 1221, and I think I had 2 separate emails as well. So this guy's got a bunch of contact information. He's dropping them all off. Sir, are you here under subpoena today? Yes, I am. That's why he's Bragg's Pecker, because Bragg brought him with him. Okay, so you didn't come voluntarily. Well, I'm here under subpoena. Mr. Pecker, who was Dylan Howard? Do you remember that name? He says, sure I do, yeah. He was the chief editor-in-chief. So he was the chief editor-in-chief, not just the editor-in-chief. Wow. And so he ran the network, of course, right, for AMI? He says, yeah. And so when it comes to big, juicy stories, did Dylan Howard run these stories by you? He says, yeah, he did. That was part of his job. What were your sources for some of these stories? Like, where did you get these? Where did they originate from? Well, for us, it was a lot of different people, you know, limousine drivers, people who work for lawyers. Wow, that's scandalous. You have your legal assistants or something ratting out your clients. Woo, like that. Where is Dylan Howard now? Australia, he says. So Dylan Howard's not available. He's in Australia. Prosecutor says, does he have health issues? Trump's lawyer says, objection. That's overruled because Trump made the objection. So, of course, it gets overruled. Now, my understanding is, reading around, filling in the gaps, I think that Dylan Howard has some sort of spinal condition and he's not able to travel because of that condition. So a prosecutor wanted to bring that up for whatever reason, probably to fill out the question that you might be asking, which is, where is Dylan Howard, right? If the jurors might be saying, okay, well, if Dylan Howard knows all this stuff, where is he? Why doesn't he come testify? Well, it's because he's got a spinal problem in Australia. Okay. So prosecutor continues. Mr. Pecker, who was Bonnie Fuller? He says, oh, Bonnie. Yeah. We had to compete with her and her Us Weekly magazine. She was killing us. So I decided to hire her. I just went and hired her. Smart move. If you can't beat him, just go hire him. So I decided to hire her. Smart man. So the justice says, okay, Judge Merchant. So it says, okay, we're going to stop right there for the day. It's the time for the juror's appointment. So we'll call it there. We're going to end it here for the day. Now the jurors leave. Pecker steps down from the witness stand and he'll be back up on the stand tomorrow. No doubt about it. So Mercan says, okay, so the jurors are gone. All rise. All right, please be seated. Jurors are gone. Judge says, all right, before we wrap here for the day, we're going to have our hearing on contempt tomorrow. Remember, Trump, they want him fined $3,000 for contempt. He says, if we're not done by 11, and I expect we will be, we're just going to stop and we'll let the jury in. And so we'll pick it up later. So we're going to do contempt. Then we're going to do more from Pecker, and then they'll call it a day. Trump's attorney, Emil, stands up. Your Honor, we objected to some testimony from Pecker today about the whereabouts of Dylan Howard. Okay, that's hearsay and that's irrelevant. You shouldn't be talking about where he is. That's an out-of-court statement. It's not relevant to this matter. And the prosecutor says, sorry, Your Honor, it could be foundational as to witness availability, right? They're saying that's what they wanted. Why isn't he here? Well, he's got a spinal problem. So judge says, your objection's noted, Emil. Quiet, sit down. Says, and Trump's lawyer Bove now stands up, or that's Emil. He says, we expect them to elicit newspaper articles. We'd like the court to give a limiting instruction to the jury when they're reading these newspaper articles from the National Enquirer. Now, the government says, well, at some point, yeah, we are going to introduce these exhibits, pro-Trump headlines in the National Enquirer. And we're also going to show the anti-opponent headlines only for the dates that we have listed here. So they're going to show, right? In other words, they're trying to show that there's this conspiracy. Pecker was writing stories to attack Trump's opponents, and the National Enquirer was a tool of, I guess, Trump, or maybe Putin, who knows. Only for the dates, though. Emil says, Your Honor, this is crazy. There will be some November 2015 emails with Sharon Churcher and others, but there's also hearsay. And in this batch of documents, that hearsay stuff cannot come in. And the government says, well, Judge, it would have been better if we'd heard about this months ago. Why are they just bringing it up now? But we could agree some is not for the truth. Like, we just want to show it for other purposes, but not to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So it's not actually hearsay. We'll get it in for another purpose. So the judge says, okay, well, why don't you, Mr. Bove, Emil, why don't you identify the ones that you're concerned about from these newspaper articles? And he says, well, we only learned about them when Mr. Pecker was called yesterday at 3 p.m. on Sunday, because you won't tell us who's coming in. That's why we didn't bring it up before, because we only learned that you were calling him. Government says, Your Honor, can we approach for a moment so they could talk about the contempt motion? And apparently that happened quickly. And we're done. So they come back. Judge Mercan says, see you tomorrow. They ended early because the jurors had an appointment, and they're ending early tomorrow because of Passover. And once again, Inner City Press reporting. You can follow him, Matthew Russell Lee, icp.substack.com, on X at Inner City Press reporting. Shout out to Matthew Russell Lee for the great analysis. So the day ended early. Trump came out. He had a little bit more to say on this. We'll listen to a few minutes of this, and then we'll see what the president had to say. After the day, walking with Todd Blanche.
President Trump, how are you doing today?
I think it went very well. So you heard that yourself. This is a case that nobody wanted to bring, including Alvin Bragg. It was just at the last minute they decided to do it. It's a case that, if you're looking back, it goes back many, many years, 2015, maybe before that. And it's a case as to bookkeeping, which is a very minor thing in terms of the law, in terms of all the violent crime that's going on outside as we speak, right outside as we speak. But this is a case where you pay a lawyer, who's a lawyer, and they call it a legal expense. That's the exact term they used, legal expense, in the books. And another thing that wasn't even said was we never even deducted it as a tax deduction. So that takes a whole vast area. Most people want to deduct everything. We never even took it as a tax deduction. But they called the payment to a lawyer a legal expense.
Makes
in the
sense.
books. They didn't call it construction. They didn't say you're building a building. It called a payment to a lawyer because, as you know, Cohen is a lawyer. Represented a lot of people over the years. Now, I'm not the only one. And wasn't very good in a lot of ways in terms of his representation. But he represented a lot of people. But he puts in an invoice or whatever, a bill, and they pay it, they call it a legal expense. I got indicted for that.
Yeah.
What else would you call it? Actually, nobody's been able to say what you're supposed to call it. If a lawyer puts in a bill or an invoice and you pay the bill and in the book, it's a little line. That's a very small little line. I don't know if you could even write more than 2 words. It's not like you could tell a life story. They marked it down to a legal expense. This is what I got indicted over.
What are you supposed to put, I guess?
I got indicted. I'm the leading candidate. I'm beating Biden. I'm beating the Republicans now. I have the nomination. And this is what they try and take me off the trail for. That check's being paid to a lawyer. He is a lawyer, or was a lawyer. And also the things he got in trouble for were things that had nothing to do with me. He got in trouble, he went to jail. This had nothing to do with me. This had to do with the taxi cab company that he owned, which is just something he owned, and medallions and borrowing money and a lot of things, but it had nothing to do with me.
And we're going to talk about this in the next segment about what Cohen's convictions were actually for and how the jury will be introduced to them, because the government is going to try to make it say Cohen is a criminal because of Trump, right? It's Trump's fault that all of these things happened to him, and Trump is saying none of that's true.
Represented a lot of people over the years, but they take this payment and they call it a legal expense, and you heard it today for the first time. This is what I got indicted over. This is what took me off and takes me off the campaign trail, because I should be in Georgia now. I should be in Florida now. I should be in a lot of different places right now campaigning, and I'm sitting here. And this will go on for a long time. It's very unfair. The judge is conflicted, as you know.
Yes.
It's very unfair what's going on.
It is unfair.
And I should be allowed to campaign. And whoever heard of this, you got indicted for that? People in the court just said to me, I can't believe it. This is the case. So we did nothing wrong. The other thing is, if this were such a great case, why didn't the Southern District bring it? Who looked at it, turned it down?
Or Cyrus Vance.
Why didn't numerous other agencies and
Alvin Bragg.
law enforcement groups look at it? Because it was shown to everybody. And very importantly, why didn't the federal elections do anything about it? Because this is federal, it's not state. They're trying to make it a state case, whatever.
And they're bootstrapping it onto a federal crime. Because remember that in order to get this as a felony charge, in order to save it from the expired statute of limitations in New York, they had to say that Trump was intending to commit another crime and not actually commit the other crime. And so that's what they're going to say. He is intending to commit election interference, or they're going to find some other statute that they're going to say he intended to violate federal law. He doesn't actually have to do it. It's just about intent. But the point is, the feds looked at it and they didn't do anything about this. Even Alvin Bragg didn't even do anything about this, which is why Mark Pomerantz and Kerry Dunn both resigned.
It's not state, it has nothing to do. It's never happened before, I believe. Never happened before. This has never happened before, where the state tries to insert itself in federal elections. Nobody's ever seen it. But you know, federal elections took a total pass on it. They said essentially nothing was done wrong, or they would have done something about it. They're tough. They would have done something about it. But they said nothing, and they said, we're going to take a pass. Because they couldn't even believe it. Actually, if you read their letter, they couldn't even believe it. They were incredulous. And yet, Bragg picks it up. Now, with Bragg, if you look, when he first came in, he didn't want to do it.
No, he didn't.
He didn't want to do it. Now, when are they going to look at Pomerantz and what Pomerantz
Until
did?
Colangelo came down.
And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial.
Wow, okay.
So he got caught lying.
So this is going to be very curious. We're going to see if they hit Trump on this tomorrow at the contempt hearing. They're going to say he's still talking about Cohen. He's not allowed to talk about witnesses. They're going to hit him on this tomorrow. Watch.
Pure lying. And when are they going to look at that? Now we'll go to another subject, because just a few blocks away, as you know, they had a trial on 175.
That was Tish James, and so we'll leave that there. But this is Todd Blanche standing next to him, and you can see these two fellas got the contrasting ties, blue and red, with a similar sheen to both of them for a nice combo there in court. So Trump there, day 3, day 5 of the trial, and Bragg's Pecker testified under subpoena. They had to subpoena that Pecker to come on in here, and he showed up and then started testimony. Now, we're going to be back, of course, on the following day tomorrow with the remainder of Bragg's Pecker's testimony, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you join us as we continue our coverage here. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come on over and join us, and thank you for becoming a member and supporting us with your membership. And it's a great place to get some additional content, meet some amazing people, and have some fun while we talk about the madness going on around us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends, and we got one final segment on the day, and this one involves Michael Cohen. Convicted perjurer Michael Cohen is going to be testifying in the Trump trial. We're waiting until he is called by Alvin Bragg and the Democrats, but there are several motions that have been submitted by Todd Blanche and Trump's defense team trying to limit how this testimony will be presented to the jurors, or more specifically, how full the testimony can be, because they're trying to make Michael Cohen and his convictions related to Trump. They're trying to say he only pleaded guilty and pled guilty because of Trump. But Trump is wanting to say they're not related at all. And so Trump's defense submitted a filing on that one, also submitted an attempt to preclude the Access Hollywood tapes altogether. Judge Mercan is not going to be granting that, but they're marking this down for the appeals. And of course, Alina, Habba, is in the house, and she is not happy about what's happening there in New York. Now, you may have seen this. Michael Cohen, Trump is under a gag, but Michael Cohen is running his mouth on X. He posted this today. He says, hey, Von Poopy Pants, your attacks of me stink of desperation. We are all hoping that you stand and take the stand in your defense, right? This is what Cohen is saying. Trump can't respond to any of this because he's been gagged, right? And so he is just on a tear over there. Michael Cohen's a real piece of something. But Trump is trying to ensure the jury really knows what's happening with Michael Cohen. In fact, this is what they submitted into the court. This is from Todd Blanche, Trump's defense team, sending this in to Judge Mercan. They say, all right, Judge, listen, we need to have a conversation about Michael Cohen. First of all, Michael Cohen in 2018 took a guilty plea. He agreed that he broke the law, violating federal election law. And we need to address this. We know that he's going to testify, and David Pecker is going to be testifying as well. His testimony is continuing forward. Now, he's going to talk about this non-prosecution agreement, AMI's non-prosecution agreement. Okay, so AMI, they decided not to prosecute him, but they prosecuted Cohen. And so we need to talk about all this. And so we request that we be allowed to introduce these limiting instructions. All right, so Trump is proposing that as soon as Cohen testifies or is done testifying, that we say this, like tell the jury this. President Trump requests this. Okay, Michael Cohen gets done blabbing, lying through his mouth again. He doesn't care if he lies in the middle of court. He apparently did that to a federal judge. So tell the jurors, okay, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard evidence that Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to violating the FECA, Federal Election Campaign Act. Now, that evidence is being offered only to help you assess Cohen's credibility as a witness. Now, Cohen's guilty plea is not evidence of Trump's guilt, and you may not consider it in determining whether Bragg has proven the elements of his case. So they're saying now Bragg pleaded guilty. Cohen pleaded guilty in 2018. That's the federal case from what happened with Pecker. Now, the requested instruction is consistent with this prior ruling, as well as Bragg's representation that they've got no objection to limiting instruction that say that the jury can't consider Cohen's guilt. So I guess this is what, in response, Bragg responded with this statement. Let's see how this differs from Trump. So this is Trump's up top, Bragg's down below. Bragg says, as soon as Cohen is done testifying, you should instruct the juror that there has been testimony elicited at this trial concerning Cohen's guilty plea. This evidence was admitted to provide context for his decision to break from Trump and to assist you in assessing Cohen's credibility. You may not consider the guilty plea itself to be evidence of Trump's guilt. Now, during the parties' conferral on this issue, Bragg described their proposal as one that would instruct the jurors about the proper use of the testimony in a fulsome way. However, their proposal actually asked the court to endorse their theory that the salient feature of a guilty plea is a break from President Trump. They say that's unnecessary. And it's unjust for the court to take a position on that. Break free from? What does that even mean? The defense has a very different view of Cohen's decision to do that. We must be permitted to argue that the plea reflects adversely on his credibility and that the jury must evaluate these arguments without your intervention, Judge. And so you authorize testimony from Pecker about their agreements because Pecker took a non-prosecution deal, and Trump respectfully requests a limiting instruction on that one as well. Don't exceed the scope of the testimony by offering the agreements themselves, signed by Todd Blanche. Okay, so that's trying to explain or to limit what the jury, make sure the jury is very clear about what they can do with Cohen's testimony. Don't conflate the two. Don't try to say Cohen's guilty, therefore Trump's guilty. Keep that very separate. You can see it's just a slight difference really between the two. I mean, it's a pretty significant difference actually between the two, but Bragg's making the argument to make it more favorable to his side. So separately, Trump's team also submitted this. Say, we would also like you to keep the Access Hollywood tape out of this trial. They say, Trump says, we need to preclude this. It is unduly prejudicial, or at least don't allow it in until we hear from Stormy or from Karen McDougal. Why do we need this Access Hollywood tape? The recording was reported to the media on October 7th, 2016. It's clear from the statements on the recording that no one is discussing Stormy or McDougal. This is the Access Hollywood tape, locker room talk tape. Bragg has characterized the contents of the recording as, quote, an admission to, or at least a description of an assault of a crime. And in the ruling, the court addressed Trump's objection to this, saying we're going to seek the proper balance on this. The court said that we could elicit testimony about the interview that contained comments of a sexual nature because it might implicate Trump because it shows he feared for his presidential aspirations. Trump's defense continues, they say, on April 15th, Bragg sought clarification. What can we do with this? Now, with respect to other unproven assault allegations, the court correctly reasoned that that was very, very prejudicial. You can't say this guy's an assaulter. And so admitting the recording and saying this is evidence of an assault is insane. So the risk of unfair prejudice is also greatly increased, says Todd Blanche, by the fact that Stormy has more recently couched her account in terms we very much dispute. Stormy is now saying this is a non-consensual encounter, right? So this was just, she got Bergdorfed, just like Eugene Carroll did. This is how this is changing yet again. It went from something that never ever happened to something that did happen. Now it's non-consensual. Now she was attacked all of a sudden. Now, disclosing the recording's contents to the jury, even in a transcript, would require Trump to address this. Now, on the other hand, in terms of the probative value, is this going to help the jury decide these charges? Bragg indicated that they seek to argue the recording was sent the campaign into a tailspin. And so they can address these arguments. So regardless, Trump respectfully requests that the court adhere to the more restricted scope of the in limine ruling or reserve the decision until after the testimony from this person, redacted. So we don't know who that is. All right, so respectfully submitted by Todd Blanche. So the judge sounds like he's going to be admitting some of that transcript. For what purpose and when it comes in is yet to be seen. But Stormy Daniels, Access Hollywood tape, they want the jury to be thinking Trump is an assaulter, right? If they can smear him with a E. Jean Carroll situation, they'll do it. So Alina Habba in the house, and she is Trump's attorney. And it looks like she was also there in New York or somewhere nearby. And she was giving her statement and her opinion on what is happening here, saying this is witch hunt after witch hunt. And it is dragging money out of the Trump coffers at a very high rate. We saw this morning on our members only stream on Locals that it was something like $75 million has been spent on this. That's money that's not going to swing states. It's not going to get out the votes, not going to campaign ads, all being used for criminal defense. And the government, they don't have to come out of pocket to bring those prosecutions. That's funded by you and me, my friends, the taxpayers.
He should not have two teams of lawyers here today. He should not even be here today because he did nothing wrong. It is the epitome of a witch hunt. I just left where a judge asked us whether our cash bond, cash sitting in. Ms. James wanted to argue and say that our cash somehow isn't green enough. We wasted time. The judge made a comment saying he thought that money market accounts could go down under the amount. He doesn't even understand basic principles of finance. But this was the man that decided that we owed money and my client committed fraud. We are going to attack every single one. 1 hour, the attorney general and that judge realized quickly that they had no idea what they were talking about. We came to an agreement that everything would be the same. We would modify terms, and that was it. This is where your taxpayer dollars are going, America, right here. Witch hunt after witch hunt. President Trump's company was worth more in that case than it is now. And now what? We're here because of something that happened when he was in the White House that wasn't even wrong. It was not wrong. You hire lawyers to solve problems, lawyers solve those problems, you pay them. That's it. This is a joke. It's an affront to the American Constitution. It's an affront to our judicial system. And it's an affront to every lawyer that cares about their license, that cares about what is right and wrong. I am sick of coming in front of the press and saying this, but you have to because you people need to understand what is going on. God forbid you put an accounting thing in for legal counsel. It's legal counsel. And now our taxpayer dollars, my time, our attorney's fees, are all here because they're afraid of 2024. And you know what? They should be, because the American people are not stupid. They see what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah! Get it, Alina. Man, she's fired up out there today, so she's right. And if the government prosecutes you, it costs you a lot. Like, how much more money does a cop have to, what does it cost an officer to write an additional ticket? Like nothing, right? It's diminishing returns there, or marginal returns. The point is, you, to defend that, have to come out of pocket. It is insane to defend yourself against that. The state is set up to prosecute. The defense is not. So it is a tactical maneuver. They're trying to bleed Trump dry. They're trying to deflate the entire right and suppress the energy, the enthusiasm, demoralize everybody, and so on. But that's not going to happen, okay? The only thing that they're doing is revealing who they are, their true nature. And it's very nice that we get to see it now and that we have somebody like Trump who can go through this and continue to persevere and march on as this battle continues. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends, this trial in depth. Thank you for joining us as we do. Thank you so much for inviting someone you know or love to come over here and join us as we go through the transcripts in great detail. and piece together what's going on inside this very historic trial. We're grateful to have you join us. Thanks for checking out some of the links down in the description below, including watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our members only community. We have a great community there. We do live streams in the morning where we talk about other things that we can't get to here, like our useless Congress and president and, that fun stuff. We'd love to have you join us. Come say hello. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. So we got 3 good segments. Perjurer Cohen and his convictions under scrutiny, and we'll see how those get admitted to the jury. Bragg's Pecker, who he brought into court under subpoena. We'll be back to testify tomorrow. And Trump and his defense did a nice job in their opening statements, dominating, showing that this whole thing is clearly just a rigged show. Now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about all of this. Of course, when we're done, we're going over to our after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I hope you had an amazing, beautiful weekend, my friends. It's going to be a busy week. And we're ready to go. We're grateful that you're here. All right, let's see who's joining us. What's up, John McGarvey, Economy Pilots clipping for us too today. We got Lenny Malley. What a nice reminder, Lenny. Thank you for this. Please smash the like button. Please like and share and subscribe. Share on all your social media platforms. And God bless you, my brothers and sisters. From Lenny Malley. Good to see you, Lenny. Amen to that. Thank you for that, Lenny. Hey, Phil Sweet is here as a new supporter over on the YouTube. It's good to see you, Phil Sweet. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. Jesus Freak is here. Very nice to have you, sir. Welcome aboard, Jesus Freak. And this one came in from Tony Hay Munkets. Look at this. 10 new membos going to be joining us on our member only streams. Maria K. Mr. Trump Train is here. What about me? Ray, Dust in the Wind. We got Mr. T, Gypsy, Rial, Newt Gadget, and Jackie Kennedy in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. We got this one from Kit. What's up, Kit? Says 5 for 5. Yet another month of amazing videos. Personally, I think Trump should go to the Congress meeting instead of the trial. The federal government beats the state. Yeah, so like show up to SCOTUS maybe on Thursday. Yeah, we'd have a little predicament on our hands, wouldn't we? We'd see what happened there. And I think the judge would probably ask for a warrant. We'd come to heads on that one for sure. Good to see you, Kit. Thanks for saying what's up and for the dono. Hey, Knox Bierman, defense attorney in Texas, says, happy Monday, all. The National Enquirer, always reliable. Sharing this link, the National Enquirer photos, Antonin Scalia murder conspiracy about prostitutes and a sex scandal. Oh, gosh. Saying Scalia took him out. A prostitute took out Scalia. That's inappropriate. I like Justice Scalia. So it's not you, Knox. It's, obviously the National Enquirer. However, I don't think it was a prostitute. I thought it was Barack Obama. Granny Joe says, I'm a noob that has been watching over a year. What's up, Granny Joe? Well, 2 months as a membo. You seem pretty advanced to me. I don't know, 2 months as a membo, sending in super chats on membo-versaries. So she seemed pretty experienced to me, Granny Joe. Thanks for joining us, Granny Joe. Great to see you. We got Mrs. Mom says, can we trust the transcripts? That's a good question. Probably. I think that people would be able to, they're certified. I hope so. They're certified. So the transcripts should be coming out, and we're going to see how jam-packed they are and how we can maybe squeeze it in. Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, we're going to see how those look. Should be dropping first thing tomorrow. Hey, Phil Sweet, what's up? Membo for 5 months says, best membo I ever had. Awesome family this is. Thank you, Phil. We really try to deliver for our membos. I know that some other people like, join a membo, get all my free content or my extra content. It's like once a month. They're like, hey guys, we really try to deliver. So we go live 6 days a week. We do after parties over there. And then we got membos dropping awesome stuff all throughout the days. It's great. We got, what's up, Phil? Spuds, it's always a great membos stream. It's true. They're great streams. Some say they're even better than these streams. We get to talk, it's a little bit more casual, a little bit more, we let our hair down a little bit, so to speak. What's up, Maria K? 5 membos. Thank you, Maria K. Look who's coming in. Steve C. Mrs. Smoot is here. Michael K. Martini Man and Juju Queen. in the house. All courtesy of Maria K. Welcome aboard. And thank you, Maria, for bringing in the newest of membos. We got Caboots is a new supporter. Welcome aboard, Caboots. And Queen Bee's Art Hive says, will you do my divorce? I know you can't, but I had to try. Love the channel. Keep up the great job. Much love and many prayers. Well, right back at you, Queen Bee's Art Hive. You know, divorce is to new beginnings, right? To new beginnings. So you'll get through it perfectly with a much more competent divorce lawyer than me. Trust me on that one. You're doing yourself a favor. Avoid me on family law for anything. So, but to new beginnings, cheers to you. Prayers your way, Queen Bees. Thanks for stopping by, saying hi. Thanks for the funny comment. Glocky McGlock is here. Says, Judge Cannon just unsealed the documents that Smith wanted kept locked up. I saw that. Julie Kelly's got some great reporting on this. It's worse than you could possibly imagine, and Judge Cannon might very well kick this case out. They had code names and everything for this operation against Trump. They were spying on his plane, retroactively pulling a security clearance, and the documents show it all comes from the Oval Office. Woo, that sounds good. Hey, it's Julie Kelly. Julie Kelly's doing the reporting on that, so that's from Glocky. Awesome, Glocky. Economy Pilot is bringing in, Tony Hayes bringing in Brian E., Matthew H., Beatrix, Tom Fitton is hot. That dude's got some pretty good biceps on him, you know. I can respect it. Nobody is in the house, and Tony Hay Munkett's bringing in the 5 new membos. Thank you, Tony Hay, for bringing them in. Hey, Sandy, what's up? Sandy says, looking forward to the after party on Locals, Rob. Got to tell you something. The best way to predict the future is to look at the past. It's very, you know, patterns exist. I think patterns exist. And you can see them. It's not going to be the exact same, but it's going to rhyme for sure. All right, Sandy, we'll see you in a minute. We got Tony Hay Munkett's Membo for 12 months, 1 year, Tony. Oh my goodness. Says, I hope shortly after we have our next Membo baby here, Trump is going to be kicking some butt, and your stream will be about how great everything is. It's going to be a fun stream, you know. When we come here and we're like, okay, let's check the news. What's going on out there? Okay, border secure, no war. Dollar is now sound currency. All right, this is good. This is good. Looking pretty good. All right, gas is down. Okay, great. Oh, good. Interest rates down. Perfect. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? We're like, I don't know. Maybe we'll just play a board game or something. What's up? Knox Bierman's here. Says Greenfield is running unopposed for a civil judgeship after a popular judge steps down. Yeah, here's the Angeron, aka the Nip, and his Greenfield right there. Yeah, interesting that they're so she's running for office, huh? Here's the photograph of them. See, they're on the same level and they move the cameras around and you really can't see what they're doing, you know, at the same level on the same bench. It's strange. A Bad Poet is over on Rumble. Says, wow, Cohen and Stormy taking Trump's money corrupted an election in 2016. Wow. What do you call Biden and 52 CIA officers lying to the entire country about that? Clearly, you know, election interference. And that no one has been held responsible for that. No repercussions at all is insane. In fact, remember, Anthony Blinken is the guy who facilitated all of that, and now he's the Secretary of State. Isn't that fun? Hey, Gypsy Muse says, Rob, the morning show talk about the current polls, a little depressing for us Trumpers. Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, we got to be aware of everything. You know, we can't, we got to stay connected to reality. I know the polls don't look great right now, and some of them, but we got to talk about it so we get them better. But stuff like Black MAGA new song is uplifting and must send the left into a catatonic frenzy. The video is of Black MAGA. It's a new song. I haven't checked it out, but the thumbnail looks fun. What's up, John Libby? Good to see you as our new supporter. Good to see you, John. Thanks for becoming a member. Thanks for joining up. We'll see you inside. We got Ray Ronk. He says, to quote Joe Pesci in My Cousin Vinny in his opening statement, everything that first guy said is BS. He could have said that today. Matthew Colangelo, just a Biden prosecutor. Cowboy Rob said, isn't the prosecution opening statements prejudicial? Blatantly, why was there no objections? You're introducing facts irrelevant to the crime. I don't know if there were objections or not. I don't think so. I think they would have been marked in the record, but maybe he was just saving that to make his point in his opening. There's no conspiracy. You'll see it. They're making up a bunch of stuff. So just look at the charges, Look at the facts. You'll see nothing here. Tony, hey, 5 more membos, Tony. Luke is coming in. RT, Ditch Wicked. We got Reformed Convict. Okay. Gordon B, all in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets, with 5 more membos coming in. And whoa, JD Farmer's bringing in 10. Exa's here. Annie, Tyler G, Matt O, Barb W, Carol M, Jay Jarvis, Awakening Wonder, Alyssa R, Roken, all coming in courtesy of JD Farmer, bringing in 10 new membos. Thank you, JD Farmer, for being a membo and bringing in new membos. What's up? Flagpole guy sharing a beautiful flag. We love flags, especially American flags. Says you can't write a better script. Witness named Pecker. And Bragg subpoenaed him. So Bragg subpoenaed his Pecker to come into court. Hey, look at that beautiful flagpole guy. Beautiful. Cyrus J says, I'm scared Trump will be found guilty. Is Trump's team already planning an appeal plan? I don't know if they're planning an appeal, but, an appeal, they have been planning an appeal from the beginning, right? Every single filing is lodging an objection. So they're marking the record, they're papering the record with appealable issues as we speak. So I would say yes. And will Trump be forced to stay in jail while pending appeal? There's currently no evidence about that is possible. My understanding is Secret Service would have a pretty big problem with that. It would actually be a national security problem, right? You don't want your president hanging out in Gen Pop in a prison. That's kind of nuts. So I don't think that anything like that would happen, but maybe a home detention or something like that. The judge could say that and then he could not campaign. I think that is kind of a more likely possibility. Why not? Hey, Joby Wan Kenobi says, how bizarre to try to convince the public that President Trump was guilty of election interference 8 years ago by actually committing election interference today with this bogus trial. It's bizarro land, right? Trump rigged an election in 2016 as you're literally rigging the election. You're have a rigging wrench. You're rig it harder, rigging it. You're watching them in real time. What's up, Joby Wan Kenobi? We got Tony Hay Munkets, more membos, Tony. You're the man. SCVM's coming in. Skippy Peanut Butter. Life Matters. Tina Childress is here. And Dr. Voodoo's all coming in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay, for 5 new membos. Very generous today, Tony. We got B-Man. Says Julie Kelly has unrelated filings from Florida. Very interesting. Yeah, Julie Kelly's been digging in on that case, even going in person down there. So make sure you're following her, Julie_Kelly2 on X. We got Just Rhonda, bring it in. Steven, Just Rhonda, 5 new membos. Steven's here. Trollbuster, Sodium Soldier, Mary Harmony, Laura, all gifted membos, courtesy of our membo friend, Just Rhonda. Thank you, Just Rhonda. Hey, Ray's coming in. Says, thank you. You helped me understand this injustice on President Trump. Ray, that is such a nice thing to say. And your first super chat on a live stream. Very nice to have you here. Thanks for taking the plunge and dropping one down in there for supporting us. And it does feel, a little deflating. It is unjust, but we're going to get through it together. So thanks for being here, Ray. We got Sandy's here. Sandy's sharing this one. Let me read this comment. Says, I used to feel sort of sorry for Michael Cohen because he got jail treatment, threats, and experience. He was threatened with many more years of the same treatment he experienced, and now I don't feel sorry for him anymore. Yeah, I mean, I feel some empathy for Cohen just because I believe the DOJ really pressured him to go after Trump. And the DOJ is a scary entity, man. They'll wreck your whole life and everything, until they get what they want. So I have some empathy on that one, but he's also playing the game and I think creating lies to do it. And that's a dishonorable thing. So you can't, your empathy ends there when you commit new wrongs again. You can be upset that an injustice is happening, but when that person starts to participate in the injustice, then they become complicit in it. And I think the empathy evaporates immediately. So that's what's going on with Cohen. JD Farmer says, the American people are not stupid. They think we are. And we're not. I think a lot of people are going to recognize this for what it is. Bullies, cheaters, and liars trying to win an election. Felix says, Democrats and rhinos love the Ukrainian borders and people. Maybe they should move there and enlist in the military. Why would they need to move? They already have our country. Yeah, so they don't need to go anywhere. They just, I don't know, just vote for, I think they're a part of our country now, as far as I know. I didn't know that we were at war with Russia, but apparently we are. And their borders are a lot more important than ours, evidently. So Felix, thank you. Jennifer says, many thanks for another great show, Rob. Trump 2034 and 2024 as well. And one final Pecker in the house before we wrap it up from LOL from Jennifer. Good to see you, Jennifer. Bragg's Pecker. What's he doing here? Hey, Angry Bellsprout says Rob saw the Pecker and had to go for it. I should have known. I should have known. I knew better. If you're going to use it, you got to be prepared to get it thrown back at your face. Gosh. Here's one from Tony Hay Munkets. Can you give this a don't mind me to look up a reminder to look up a Superman emoji mojo? Oh, maybe give this to don't mind me to look up a Superman Trump emoji mojo. A Trump emoji, Superman Trump. I need to, yeah, you mentioned that. I don't think I've seen that one. If we have a good Trump Superman emoji, I'll happily add it. What's up, Felix? Says Hillary Clinton took out Scalia. You know how Mr. and Mrs. Hillary do business. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Scalia. I thought it was Obama, maybe. Here's one from Sandy. Says Knox knows about Scalia. I tip my hat to Knox. Cheers to you, Knox and Sandy. Hey, what's up? Keels Mac. Hey, thank you for the Shibu with the nice heart. Thank you, Keels. Good to see you, Keels Mac. Nice dono. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for supporting us. Grateful for you being here. We got Maria K. Says, hey, it's the Munkets. Good to see you, Maria. From Tony, hey, man, delivering some serious membos on the lovely day. We got Lynn. What's up, Lynn? Says Alina was cooking at Siggy's home today. What? Brisket for Passover, saw her on X. Wish I could post a photo. Alina in the kitchen is amazing. Okay, so who is this? Siggy, last name Flicker's home today. Alina was cooking. She cooks too? Wow. She does everything. Thank you, Lynn. Hey, Fred Pedamonte's here. Says, I feel objecting in opening statements looks weak. Yeah, I would say so, but they did it to them, right? They did it to the defense, and it's like, that's not in the indictment at all. I think I might jump out of my seat on that one for the conspiracy one. Hey, Felix says, although, it's true. I think, Fred, you make a good point. Like, Trump's people are going to get overruled. So if they jump up in opening, just strategically, it doesn't matter how good their objection is, they're probably going to lose. So I think that's a fair point. Felix says the Democrats trying to get Trump deleted in jail. Yeah, trying to remove his Secret Service. Benny Thompson's the guy behind that. Eugene Sands, a new supporter. What's up, Eugene? Thank you for becoming a membo, my man. We'll see you on the membo streams. Hey, Glenn Croy, 12 months, a 1-year anniversary. Shouting out the Salty Army. Cheers to the Salty Army, to our friends from Watching the Watchers, from Glenn Croy. Good to see you, Glenn. Thanks for being a member, my friend, for 12 months. JD Farmer, welcoming everyone in. Thanks, JD, for bringing them in. It says, welcome to all. Very generous, JD. Thanks for doing that. Hey, and John G, a membo for 5 months. Thank you, John. Really nice compliment. You do an excellent job sorting it out. Blue tie Trump. Blue tie. He wore a blue tie today. See, that's why we kept the blue tie, because you never know. Hey, JD Farmer, more membos from JD. JD, again, thank you. Virginia H is here. Deb Shaw. Sir Toenail Cupcakerson is joining us. Bob J. James F. The End is here. Kathy R. Jittery Hobo. Scavies. And Robin is here. Welcome aboard. Courtesy of JD Farmer in the house. And Sandy says, yeah. Benny Thompson is trying to introduce a bill that would strip Trump from his Secret Service protection. That tells you there is no current law to do so. Ask Rob about nunc pro tunc. Yeah, we covered that we covered that last week, and in his little press release, he says it applies to Trump, doesn't say it's ex post facto, and I think they're just saying it's a benefit and they can just withdraw the benefit. So it's wild that they're doing it. It does feel like kind of a thumb in the eye, kind of like, just trying to needle everybody a bit. But if the Republicans lose the House, do you really think that they would not bring that to the floor, that bill? If they had an opportunity to do so, they would definitely do that, right? I'm pretty sure they would. So let's see who's joining us on X, my friends, before we wrap it up and go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Who is joining us on X? Here's one from Glocky, and we got some memes over here from Glocky. Okay. Bragg's Pecker testifies. That's right. He did testify today. He did. And we want to be clear because you don't want to just start, what Pecker are you talking about? It's Bragg's Pecker, the man under subpoena. Hey, Raven Madness is here saying that Tony Bobulinski's suing Raskin. Raven Madness, what's up, crypto nerds from Texas? 222's in the house. Erno says Alvin, Woody Pecker, and the rest of the chipmunks are getting ready for their big day. Oh, man. Okay. Danny McWilliams, Trump the judge will place Trump on house arrest. What's up, Raven Madness? Glocky sharing this meme. This is Congress. That's Zelensky. And that's Breaking Bad. Just lay down in it, Zelensky. Just lay down. Go ahead. 60 billion. You'll feel good. There you go. There you go. That's nice. Hopefully you're feeling good about that. Good. Enjoy it. Enjoy it, Zelensky. You're welcome from the American people. Oh my gosh. All right. So that's from Glocky. We got Fred's over there says, by going along with these ridiculous trials and gag orders, Trump is giving them legitimacy. He has to go to SCOTUS for immunity. And Drunk Pinata says, great breakdown. As always. All right. So good stuff, Glocky. Great memes over there. That's my friends on X. Head on over, follow us, and follow your other friends on X out there. And make sure you're following and liking those memes. Okay, so that is it for us on the day. Hey, what's up? Walker Mixon just became a new membo. And Tony Hay is bringing in even more membos. We got Thomas Z, Salty S, Salty C, Da Ro, Victo in the house, and Chase Junkie, all gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Great to see you, Tony Hay, and welcome aboard, Walker Mixon. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream in the morning, Walker. Thanks for becoming a membo and supporting us, and welcome to all our new membos. Great to see you guys, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the membo only streams. And Knox says, the White House continues to deny RFK Secret Service. He made a t-shirt, no shoes, no shirt, no Secret Service. Gotta say, he looks fine without a shirt. Oh, golly. He does. He's working out. I endorse working out. I think that RFK is aspirational, right? It'd be good. It'd be good to keep lifting weights at 70, whatever he is. He looks good. All right. So, my friends, that is it for us on the day. Thank you, Knox, for that comment, making sure we got that one there. Thank you for sending that one in. And my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Yeah, we have to be fitter and stronger and better looking than the left, healthier, better arteries, okay? We need better arteries, bigger biceps, more cardio, better looking families, all of it, okay? We need it all. So stay fit, my friends. Okay, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we're going. Come and join us. We have our website, robertgovea.com, email, newsletter. We have show store, PDF, all sorts of good stuff, and watcherlodge.com. Come join us for our Sovereignty Saturdays, sovereignty and self-development. What is the solution to our problems? It's sovereignty and it's self-development. That's how we're going to persevere through this. Before we wrap it up, want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who keep this place nice and orderly. Our friends K Bean in the house, always so helpful. Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zach. We got Janek, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Helping Away, and Donut Mind Me, modding the fort down for us. We are grateful for them, along with our meme smiths, Glocky McGlock in the house with the great memes, Geegum Geegum, Nathan N810, and Sleepy Dog Lee, all making this place a lot more fun. And we're grateful for everyone who helps bring this all together. Thank you so much for your support. My friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. come on over there and join us. If we don't see you over there, well, tomorrow, trial, day 6, we're going to be back here. And I hope to see you doing the same, because when we're back here, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.